Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to explain the ground rules for this press conference.
Rules for the press conference in Japanese. As for simultaneous interpretation, Channel 1 is for Japanese, Channel 2 is for English, and Channel 3 is for Korean. Now I'll continue only in Japanese. Takaichi-san.
The press conference by Prime Minister Takaichi is scheduled to begin at 5:30. When the Prime Minister enters the room, all members of the press are requested to remain seated. The press conference will be conducted with simultaneous interpretation in Japanese, English, and Korean. Japanese is on Channel 1, English is on Channel 2, and Korean on Channel 3. The press conference will begin with opening remarks by the Prime Minister, followed by a Q&A session. If you wish to ask a question, please raise your hand. When called upon by the moderator, please move forward to the microphone and state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Please limit your question to one per person and keep it clear and concise. After your question, please promptly return to your seat. After the press conference ends, please remain seated until the Prime Minister leaves the room. Please switch off your mobile phones or set them to silent mode. Please refrain from taking photographs from the press seating area as it may disturb other reporters. After the press conference, please leave the interpretation receivers on your seat before leaving. We appreciate your cooperation for the smooth conduct of this press conference.
Prime Minister Takaichi will enter the room shortly. Please wait into your current positions. Thank you. We will now begin the press conference by Prime Minister Takaichi. Prime Minister Takaichi will make initial remarks, and that will be followed by a Q&A session. Prime Minister, the floor is yours. Thank you, and good afternoon. I wish to share with you my thoughts as this trip to Gyeongju to attend the APEC Economic Leaders meeting comes to an end. Today is the 12th day in office as Prime Minister. Since last week, events have taken place one after another with the ASEAN-related summits, President Trump's visit to Japan, and the APEC Economic Leaders meeting as I dashed through the intense and meaningful week of diplomacy. During the series of diplomatic events, I was able to move forward the policies that I had placed on the agenda at the time of my appointment to the stage of implementation. Those policies include promotion and evolution of FOD, free and open Indo-Pacific, to make the concept aligned with the times, elevating the Japan-US alliance to new heights, and establishing trust and cooperation with major regional countries through frank dialogue. In order to restore Japanese diplomacy that flourishes on the world's center stage, I have made a good start through bold steps. President Trump and other leaders I met during the week received me with congratulatory remarks on my appointment to Prime Minister and warm welcome. I am pleased that I have been able to build personal relationships with leaders which will form the foundation of future bilateral ties. And a few hours ago, the APEC Economic Leaders meeting to which I attended concluded at the AELM under the theme of building a sustainable tomorrow, and based on the priorities of connect, innovate, and prosper. Active discussions took place with leaders. As Japan strives to build a strong economy, sustainable growth and prosperity of the Asia-Pacific are essential. At the AELM, I stressed the importance of maintaining and strengthening a rules-based, free and fair economic order and a high-level CPTPP, and the need to swiftly deal with pressing issues of the WTO, which can no longer be deferred. I also demonstrated Japan's determination to contribute to regional development and resolution of social challenges through strategic growth investment by public-private partnership in such areas as AI and digital, energy, and infrastructure. The Gyeongju Declaration agreed by APEC economic leaders explicitly mentioned several factors that are of high priority for Japan. We believe that this was a result of several member economies sharing Japan's position. At this meeting, decision was made for Japan to take on the chair of APEC in 2031. We will make all our efforts to prepare for the year 2031. And on the sidelines of APEC, I had separate meetings with President Xi Jinping of China, President Lee Jae-myung of the Republic of Korea, and other leaders.
Between President Xi and I, we confirmed the broad direction of our bilateral relationship, namely the comprehensive advancement of a mutually beneficial relationship based on common strategic interests and the building of a constructive and stable relationship. With President Xi, we discussed the various pending issues. What I stressed was that it is precisely because there are pending issues and differences that the top leaders directly and frankly engage in dialogue. It is my hope that this meeting will trigger further attempts to address the various challenges and cooperation. In my talks with President Lee Jae-myung, we agreed on the significance of Japan-ROK relations and cooperation between Japan, ROK, and the United States in the present strategic environment. In particular, we confirmed that we will develop our bilateral relationship into one which is a future-oriented and stable, based on the foundation of Japan-Korea relationship, which has been built since the normalization of diplomatic relations between our two countries. To this end, we agreed that both governments will continue to closely communicate in the future as well, which includes the conduct of shuttle diplomacy. Aside from this, today I met with Prime Minister Carney of Canada and confirmed that we would further cooperate toward the realization of FOIP, or the Free and Open Indo-Pacific. We had a candid exchange of views on the current international situation. Now, next year marks the 10th year since Prime Minister Abe at the time initially advocated FOIP in 2016. The free and open and stable order, which we have become familiar with, is being significantly shaken, and more than ever, powerful diplomacy and security policies are necessary. I started with a visit to ASEAN, welcomed President Trump in Japan, and here in the ROK as well, I was able to engage in important diplomatic activities. But we have only started in our attempt to restore Japan's diplomacy, which flourishes on the world's center stage. It is my intention to address the issues of strengthening the U.S.-Japan alliance, which is now the greatest alliance in the world, cooperation with a broad range of partners for the realization of FOIP or FOIP, strengthening relationships of trust with the major counterparts of the region. With respect to each of these, I will make my utmost effort going forward based on the results of diplomacy achieved this time. This concludes my opening remarks.
We now would like to accept questions from the journalists. First, we will give the floor to the Japanese press. Those with questions, please raise your hand. Thank you very much for this occasion. My name is Jijiwa of TV Asahi, and I'm the lead managing journalist. I may overlap with your initial remarks, but this was your debuting APEC, so how do you evaluate the achievements? And as you have pointed out, you began with ASEAN, followed by President Trump's visit to Japan, Japan ROK and Japan-China summits, and now APEC. So this was a week of diplomacy. What's your assessment of the series of events? And another point. You've experienced many diplomatic scenes, but this is only the 12th day in office. But what do you think about Takaichi diplomacy? What's the definition? What's your style of diplomacy? You probably by now have your own image of diplomacy. Maybe you're trying to do something different from before. So what's the image of the Takaichi diplomacy? As the concluding event of the Week of Diplomacy, which began immediately after inauguration at the AELM, I was able to clearly demonstrate Japan's commitment to the strong economic development and prosperity of the Asia-Pacific. Decision for Japan to host APEC in 2031 was yet another major achievement. This was also a great opportunity to engage in meaningful meetings with responsible leaders of the region. I exchanged words with them directly, and as I mentioned in my initial remarks, I had frank dialogues with China and ROK, who are important neighbors, and was able to solidify the groundwork in advancing diplomacy at the highest level. Looking back on the past week at the ASEAN-related summits, strengthened partnership with ASEAN, the cornerstone of FOIP, and other like-minded nations and ally was reaffirmed, while during President Trump's visit to Japan, which took place immediately after ASEAN, we clearly concurred to co-create a new history for the Japan-US alliance. Through the series of diplomatic events, I talked in person with several leaders, including our ally, like-minded nations, and regional neighbors, and established personal ties. I am pleased that I've been able to take a steady step forward to create a new horizon for the foreign policy of Japan. Initiatives to achieve my goal of restoring Japan's diplomacy to flourish on the world center stage has only just begun, as I mentioned in my opening remarks. But the starting dash was powerful. And building on this momentum, I am determined to make all-out efforts to build extensive partnership for the strengthening of the Japan-U.S. alliance, realization of FOIP, and solidifying trust with major regional counterparts. So what's the difference between conventional foreign policy? I'm not sure, but people-to-people direct contacts are important. Just casual conversations about our daily lives is really important, and that shortens the distance between us.
Next, we'd like to entertain questions from the non-Japanese press. When called upon, please proceed to the microphone and state your affiliation and name before you ask your question. So the person in the front row, in the very front, please. Prime Minister, there's a headphone, so please use the headphone for simultaneous interpreting.
I'm from Reuters. 私はパク・ジュミンと申します。
Park Joo-min from Reuters. If I may ask my question in Japanese or English is fine. Previously in July, with regard to the $550 billion of investment into the United States, you said that in light of national interest, if you decide that it is not fair, you would ask for renegotiation. Between Korea and the United States, the trade agreement transpired, and between Korea and the United States, the trade agreement transpired, and the reduction in tariff amount is the same as Japan, but investment into the U.S. is smaller than that of Japan, and the profit split conditions are such that it's more favorable. With Japan, Korea has a lot of commonalities. So in comparison with Korea, the tariff agreement between Japan and the United States, do you feel that this is fair? If there are inequalities or imbalance, will you be asking the United States for a revision? Would you propose that? Thank you very much. Between the United States and Korea, negotiations are such that it's an agreement with a third country. So I'd like to refrain from commenting on the nature of the comment or the assessment of the agreement. But my awareness is that between U.S. and Korea, it's not a situation where both sides have presented what is complete. So the accurate content and substance of this is unknown to everyone. The respective circumstances of each nation differs, so I do not think it's appropriate to make a simplistic comparison. With regard to agreements between the agreement between Japan and the U.S., even with the change in Prime Minister, it's a commitment, a promise between governments, so I feel that it should not be changed. What is important is that with regard to the present agreement, it should be used to promote interests of both countries, and it should expand cooperation toward economic security, and also to feed that into economic cooperation promotion. I think that is what is of importance.
Again, we give the floor to the Japanese press. Please go ahead. Nishimura of Asahi Newspaper. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I have a question on domestic politics. You will attend to the Diet session after return to Japan. With minority ruling party, how will you deal with measures to address rising prices? You committed to the Japanese Innovation Party that you will pass the bill to reduce seats by the end of this session. There's strong objection amongst the opposing party. Will you submit the bill, just the ruling party sponsoring the bill? And finally, approval rate is very high according to various polls, and Nikkei average is renewing record highs. But there are voices that dissolution should take place quickly. Do you have plans to ask the people whether they support the LDP Innovation Party coalition, which has yet to be tested by the election? Thank you. On the October 25th cabinet meeting, we came up with economic strategy, mainly by the minister in charge of economic and fiscal policies, that also deals with the measures to address rising prices. Super partisan discussions had been conducted, and I have given directions to do so. So based upon this policy, economic policies will be decided. And on the issue regarding reduction of seats between LDP and the Japan Innovation Party, we agreed that the number of seats at the lower house will be reduced with 10% at the target. And we agreed that we will seek to submit the bill within this session in fiscal year 2025 through a Diet member proposed bill. Now, each faction will discuss its views regarding these policies, so I will refrain from making comments on these issues from the perspective of the Prime Minister, but I'm also the president of the LDP, so in my such capacity in the agreement with the Japan Innovation Party, we agreed that it's important to gain extensive support to policy debate, and we agreed to discuss these issues with other parties as well. So based upon such agreements, we will engage in sincere discussions on these political matters. And on the trend with regards to equity prices and results of each poll taken, I will refrain from making any specific comments. If there is high expectations among the people to our leadership, I think they expect us to implement what we promised to them, including the economic policy. So what's important is to make advances of the policies we advance. We have no time to think about dissolution.
In the interest of time, this question will be the last question from the non-Japanese press. I will be accepting a question. Please state your name and affiliation. Person on the second row, second to the right of the center aisle from my position, please. 경북 일보 성애기운でございます。京北新聞でございます。
경주 APEC 발걸음을 하셨습니다.
You are in a historic city of Gyeongju. In Nara City, Nara Prefecture, you have originated from this prefecture, and you cherish traditional values. And so Japanese cities have a deep relationship with Gyeongju, and APEC AELM was held here, and I believe that is very significant. Gyeongju has a sister city relationship with Nara, 55 cities, and with Usa City, it has a 33-year sister city relationship. So, but every time there's a political confrontation between the two countries, there's a large drop in exchanges. With this AELM as a starting point, exchanges between the cities in both countries would further solidify the foundation for the development of both countries and international cooperation. If Japan has measures to further advance its relations with Nara, I would appreciate it if you could enlighten me on this. Thank you very much. Between Japan and Korea, the citizen exchanges would be important for the stable development of bilateral relations. Recently, regardless of generation or region, various exchanges are taking place, and these underpin the favorable trend of our present bilateral relationship. as you point out, between Nara City and my hometown and constituency and Gyeongju, there's a city-city relationship which has spurred sporting and cultural exchanges, and broad exchanges have been taking place. In the past few years, there has been a reduction in exchanges. There's perhaps the impact of COVID. Regarding the future, recently, local governments cooperate, and so they deal with issues such as responses to declining population. They deal with common issues facing both sides and exchange knowledge and experiences. And they are advancing in a way that's meaningful to both sides. And I believe this will be a clue to how we go forward. People live in different regions and different challenges are faced. And depending on the region, the struggles and challenges differ. And how they have resolve this, and going forward how they intend to resolve these issues, I believe that an objective discussion can take place, and that would deepen exchanges between both sides. On the part of the Japanese government, between different citizens, we want to cherish exchanges, and so between the two countries, we want to develop a relationship which is future-oriented and also successful.
This concludes the press conference by Prime Minister Takaichi. We ask the members of the press to stay in your current positions as the Prime Minister leaves, and thank you for your cooperation. Please stay in your positions until we make announcements with regards to the timing of your departure, and we thank you for your cooperation.